After breakfast, I wanted to talk about the dead man and guess out how he come to be killed, but Jim didn't want to. He said it'd fetch bad luck, and besides, he said, he might come and haunt us. He said a man that wasn't buried was more likely to go haunting around than one that was planted and comfortable. That sounded pretty reasonable, so I didn't say no more. But I couldn't keep from studying over it and wishing I knowed who shot the man and what they'd done for it. We rummaged the clothes we'd got and found $8 in silver sewed up in the lining of an old blanket overcoat. Jim said he reckoned the people in that house stole the coat, because if they'd 'a knowed the money was there, they wouldn't 'a left it. I said I reckoned they killed him too, but Jim didn't want to talk about it.
You said it was the worst bad luck. Touch a snakeskin with my hands. Well, here's your bad luck. We braked in this trunk and $8 besides. I wish we could have some bad luck like this every day, Jim.
Never mind you, honey. Never mind you. Don't you get too hot. It's coming. I tell you it's coming.
Well, after dinner Friday, we was laying around in the grass at the upper end of the ridge, and we ran out of tobacco, so I went to the cavern to get some. When I arrived at the cavern to get the tobacco, I found a rattlesnake there. I killed him and curled him up on the foot of Jim's blanket ever so natural, thinking there'd be some good fun when Jim found him there. Well, by night I forgot all about the snake, and when Jim flung himself down on the blanket, the snake bit him. When Jim saw the snake, he jumped up yelling, and he grabbed Pop's whiskey jug and began to pour it down on his leg. He was barefooted, and the snake bit him right on the heel. That all comes from my being such a fool as not to remember that whenever you leave a dead snake, its mate always comes there and curls around it. Jim sucked and sucked at the whiskey jug, and his foot swelled up pretty big, and so did his leg. But by and by the drunk began to come, and so I judged he was all right. But I'd rather he'd been with the snake than Pabst whiskey. Jim was laid up for 4 days and nights. Then the swelling was all gone, and he was all around again. I made up my mind I wouldn't ever take a hold of a snakeskin again with my hands, now that I see what had come of it.
Huck! Huck!
Well, the days went along, and the river went down between its banks again, and about the first thing we'd done was to bait one of the big hooks with a skinned rabbit, and set it in a catch-a-catch that was as big as a man, being 6 foot 2 inches long and weighed over 200 pounds. We could barely handle him, and he could have flung us all the way to Illinois. So we just sat there and tried to wait till he drowned. We found a brass button in his stomach and a round ball and lots of rubbish. Jim said he had never seen a bigger fish. He would have been worth a good deal over at the village. Next morning I said it was getting slow and dull, and I wanted to get a stirring up some way. I said I reckoned I would slip over the river and find out what was going on. Jim liked that notion, but he said I must go in the dark and look sharp. Then he studied over it and said, Couldn't I put on some of the old things and dress up like a girl? It was a good notion, too. So we shortened up one of the gowns, and I turned up my trouser legs to my knees and got in. I put on the sunbonnet and tied it under my chin. Jim said no one would even know me, even in the daytime, hardly. I practiced all around all day to get the hang of things.
You walk like a girl, Huck, and quit pulling at your britches. Much better.
I started up the Illinois shore in the canoe just after dark. I started across the town from a little below the ferry landing, and the drift of the current fetched me in at the bottom of the town.